Hello! Once again, it's time, for the first time in a while, for Wary with Cary. And this is a very appropriate title because I am very, very, very wary. Not even angry, I am angry. But, I'm just so wary, tired of the WWE bullshittery that we're getting. So, to tell you what I'm talking about, because I could be talking about several different things here. So, a few weeks ago, Brock Lesnar won the Royal Rumble. You didn't really have to win. You could have just had him come out on SmackDown, the man that shot at Roman. You did it before, even when Paul Heyman told him no. It's almost like you guys don't even know the only shows you're writing. Very Games of Thrones last season style writing we got here. But okay, fine. That seemed like that was as annoyingly stupid as it was, as much as you could have pushed any literal person and gave them a huge star-making moment, or at least the road to a star-making moment, because they could go to Mania and win the title. You just, whatever. It's stupid, but on the scale of stupid shit that WWE does, it wasn't as horrible as it could have been. And then the next night on Raw, they went ahead. They went ahead and had Brock Lesnar enter the Elimination Chamber for Bobby Lashley's title. Without having to earn a shot at the Chamber, despite everybody else besides Lashley having to do it, and despite having just won the fucking Royal Rumble for a title shot already, and him claiming he was going to unify the titles at WrestleMania. Because that's a great idea. You got two brands of main roster talent that you keep promoting, shows you promote by their own self, but you're going to have one champion, right? Stupid, but for the purpose of storytelling, maybe there's a point to this, right? And Lashley, we found out now, was hurt during the entire title run. So he maybe shouldn't have won the title in the first place, but regardless, I can understand putting Brock in the chamber as an attraction. He's never been in a chamber. It's Crown Jewel, or it's the Elimination Chamber, Saudi Arabia. I get it. I understand it. I can see the appeal. I'm not completely I'm not completely biased enough to where, and I want to point out, I love the current and former Brock Lesnar. He's entertaining as fuck. He is just wonderful, except when the way he's booked on TV. When he comes out as a segment, gold. When he comes out, even his matches, I'm not a big fan of his matches because they kind of reverted back to the same boring formula of suplexes and F5s, but fine. I don't mind that so much. But it's like he's competing for world titles and winning them. Then we had in between the Rumble and the Chamber, Brock Lesnar going on the Pat McAfee show, and I really need to watch that because I hear it's a really entertaining episode. He did say some really cool stuff, like about how he wants to be remembered as a good person. He doesn't care about his wrestling legacy, and that's wonderful. It makes you think that Brock is a really good dude, a based individual, and he talked about, wearing his current Viking look, his ponytail was just because his kids dared him to do it, which that's funny. That makes Brock seem like this a cool, goofy dad, and it's crazy to think of Brock like that, but it's a fun way to think of him. And he does seem like, for the most part, from what I've seen in that interview, he seems to just be having fun and chilling and being normal. But then we got to the seemingly standard WWE top star interview point of him talking about the current crop of talent, saying they just can't get to the next level. They're doing too many high spots and not focusing. I believe it was on the start. I don't want to misquote him. I should find the exact quotes. He was saying, about how there doesn't seem to be a guy jumping to the next level, and it's a draw, and it's a very weird statement to make when WWE just was sitting here bragging about making $1 billion. They are worth $1 billion for the first time in their existence. So doesn't that imply that some of the stars are making the money? And also the whole thing about high spots, it's like, well, your matches are nothing but suplexes and F5s now for the last 2 years, dude. Yeah, you've had matches where you've told stories plenty of times, but your storytelling the last 2 years has been just suplex, F5, finisher. But it's also weird for hearing from the guy who won the Royal Rumble after having a title match, losing a title match on the same night, a Rumble he absolutely didn't need to win, say this. But that statement has even aged even worsely since WWE, once again, I shouldn't be surprised, but managed to do the most stupid thing. I give them too much credit. I just think they won't do the stupidest shit possible. But they did, and had Brock Lesnar win the title, the chamber, and the title, I should say. Been basically a 5-minute sprint, eliminating every person in the match except Bobby Lashley, who was taken out beforehand, with a pretty cool looking spot with Seth Rollins on Fury to take him out because he's injured. Taking out essentially the entire main event scene of Raw to become world champion. He didn't actually even need to make a champion versus champion match at WrestleMania. We definitely don't need. Meaning that at the very least, we are probably going to have one men's world title match at Mania. Meaning there's one less opportunity for any wrestler on the roster to get a shot because Brock and Roman have to get all the fucking shots apparently. And this shit is just frustrating. It's so fucking stupid in so many ways. Like, you had this chamber full of talent. You had Matt Riddle, a guy who does high spots, but is very over with the crowd because of his character work, as well as his wrestling ability, and it has a nice mix of MMA, high flying, and technical wrestling that seems to work for people, and you didn't give him the win, the title, or anything like that. You have Seth Rollins, a guy who's proven himself time and time again, who also does high spots in matches and gets over. In fact, that's how he first got noticed by WWE, because he was doing high spots in the Ring of Honor, I should say. And one of the biggest spots of last year, WrestleMania, was him doing that move I still don't know, where he flips back and hits it on Cesaro. Or a few years back in Triple H when he finally hit the Phoenix Splash. A move he kept trying and kept missing. That was storytelling, and it was done literally the day after Hayabusa passed away. That is brilliant storytelling with a high spot. But he is a guy who's continually got over with his character, with his promos, with his work, but you didn't give him the title. And even though he's also a guy who's won the title a lot of times, so you'd argue he wouldn't need it either. But at the very least, he's not a dude who was champion 2 weeks ago. You had AJ Styles, another man who again got over with high spots, as well as technical wrestling, as well as a lot of other stuff. Even his promos aren't the best at times, but they can be interesting. And he is a very interesting dude in ways. And he's very over, and he's been world champion again. And he wasn't world champion like a year. You could have gave it to him. And Austin Fury, who is kind of he's coming up. He's not quite there yet, obviously. I don't think he'd be ready for a world championship. So he's the only one I can understand not winning. But the other free options, you had free interesting options. Two guys who've been proven good world champions, who've drawn money, who've been a big draw, been important to the company, and one guy who'd be taking a risk, but you have a built-in storyline with him, Randy Orton, and you just said, no, forget all that. Just throw that away. Just throw it to the side. Just chunk it in the garbage. And it's just it's so exhausting. I'm mad about it. Don't get me wrong, but it's like I don't even feel like being mad, because what do I expect from this stupid company? Like, don't get me wrong. The Chamber match, the main event Chamber sucked, but Brock killing Austin Fury like he did with that F5 off the Chamber was amazing, and that powerbomb spot from Austin Fury again to Lashley was also amazing. And the Women's Chamber I thought was good. Really, actually, it was good. It was really good. I thought they did some good stuff. It's just it was too fast, so I can understand. But that ending with Bianca and Alexa was done really well. And I'm happy Bianca won. Don't get me wrong. Bianca and WrestleMania could have some fantastic matches on it. Becky and Bianca could be incredible. They've had great matches before. They had a great match with Raw a few months ago that people seem to forget about. They completely blinked that and just think it went from SummerSlam, her beating her and Bianca never getting another match with her except for Extreme Rules when it was DQ or something. No, they had a match with Raw that was really good, and Becky held the rope. And then they did like a 4-way the next week for number contender, and Dude dropped, interfered, and stopped Bianca. It was a whole thing. But, I think they could have a great match. Maybe I would like to see them give a stipulation, like maybe no DQ, maybe 2 out of 3 falls, because that fits kind of the theme of Becky beat her in a real fast time, and then she beat her by cheating. So even if Becky does either of those 2 things, Bianca can still come back twice as hard. It also would establish the fact that Becky could be like, well, I am the GOAT or whatever, and you need to prove yourself to me, EST. Stuff like that. And you also, Sami Zayn is Intercontinental Champion and won a good, even a great match, which is going to go more on SmackDown. A match that was better than most of what we saw at the Elimination Chamber. We could get a great match out of that. I hope it ain't Johnny Knoxville. I hope if you're going to have Johnny Knoxville, I hope you just have him to decide as a referee, though as an enforcer, or as a manager of whoever he's going to try. But because you can put him against Ricochet, or Cesaro, or a returning Cody Rhodes with the white belt. You never know. These things are out available. Even him and Shinsuke could have another good match at WrestleMania. I wouldn't be opposed to that after the match they just had. Fine. Yeah, Shinsuke's Intercontinental Champion sucked ass, but they had a good match. They had a great match on SmackDown. And Becky and Lita also had a great match at the pay-per-view, I thought. In fact, I'd say the Becky Lita match was the best match on the Elimination Chamber event. And Goldberg and Roman, it kind of sucked, but it was okay. I did like the guillotine finish. But I feel like Roman could have done more to him. But maybe Brock Goldberg can't take that many bumps. I'm just sick of Goldberg getting title shots in general. But it's done. Like, that's done. At least WWE wasn't that stupid. But they're stupid to do the other thing, and it's so dumb because even if at WrestleMania we get one world title match for the men, that's like you're screwing over 2 rosters full of wrestlers for what? To make another match you just made 7 years ago, I think it was now, maybe 6. I don't know. WrestleMania, no, it was like 4 years ago when whenever Brock and Roman had the match where Roman, I believe, kicked out like 4 F5s. The crowd was mad. They were booing both wrestlers. Didn't want a title change. Didn't even want the match. They just wanted the match to end. They were tired. They were sick of it. They didn't like the storyline. And they were losing their shit. And Brock was supposed to lose, and then they changed the finish. Roman lost. Brock retained. And in the back, Brock went about the Broman, the shittiest TNA tag champions ever. No, not them. Brock went in the back after the match and threw the world title, or the Universal title rather, at the wall because he was so pissed off like that. Yeah, that was fantastic, guys. Good job. You're making that match again. And they did have a great match at WrestleMania 31, don't get me wrong. Until Seth cashed in. But WrestleMania 31 was like how many years ago now? 7? You guys are building a third WrestleMania main event off of 7 years of history that isn't even really history because I haven't really been reenacting that much in between those years. It's just kind of picking and choosing when you're going to reenact the history. Brock has more history with Drew McIntyre recently than he did with Roman until SummerSlam, basically. Yeah, the last 6 months before that, it was Drew. Even while he was gone, it was Drew's history. And also the thing too about that is that it's not like these guys haven't had matches on pay-per-view since then. You haven't saved that match. You haven't been like, oh, well, there's only 3 matches. No, you literally did it at Crown Jewel. It sucked ass at Crown Jewel. It was garbage at Crown Jewel. It was a terrible main event. It shouldn't have been there. But it was what. In fact, it ruined Crown Jewel because the rest of Crown Jewel was pretty goddamn fantastic. I wouldn't even say it ruined it. Crown Jewel was still fantastic. That match couldn't have ruined it. But it just continued a streak of Roman Reigns having very underwhelming, bad world title matches that seems to continue to this very day. And on top of that, you had a cage match figures at a Saudi pay-per-view that had a really confusing finish where it was clear that Roman and Brock, that it was Brock's feet hit the ground first, but y'all tried to run it back because you didn't want Roman to win, tried to say it was a no contest and the referee's decision was fatal. After several months earlier, you literally had a GM character reverse the decision of a referee. Like shit like this are just so ass backwards. That I keep thinking about it. I know it was from years ago, but it's so stupid. And you did it one at SummerSlam where half of the story was Braun Strowman was going to cash in his Money to Bank. Like, you've done this match so many times. You beat it to death. It's like it is like John Cena and Randy Orton. You guys just keep making it. And why? It reminds me of Randy Orton, a guy who isn't even in the world title picture now and hasn't been for a year. What would have been wrong with making him get a title shot? Let's go to the list of people you could have made him a world title match. Even if Lashley had to lose the title. Fine. Lashley had to lose the title. Okay, make him lose AJ Styles. And yeah, we've seen Randy and AJ at WrestleMania before. We've seen AJ and Seth Rollins one time. You could have made that at WrestleMania again if you wanted. And I wouldn't mind Randy and AJ at Mania. I don't think people really mind. That match just feels so old now because you made it so many times. But I don't think people mind it as much. If the alternative is that, oh no, but instead we're going to have Brock Lesnar winning a world title he doesn't need in a champion versus champion match. But you could have gave Randy Orton that shot, or AJ that shot, or Seth that shot, however you want to look at it. Kevin Owens, a great wrestler, was not at the Elimination Chamber for obvious reasons. And he could have got a shot at whoever won the chamber. Kevin Owens and AJ had a pretty bad feud for the US title, but enough time has passed that feels like a fresh food, and maybe they could click now. Maybe it's a whole new thing. I remember Kevin Owens saying in a recent video for IGN about the GMO that he doesn't always win. I think it's like he doesn't always win, but he always tries to do his best in the ring. And I do see that. That's the thing about Kevin. He is just a fantastic wrestler who you always get the feeling that he's giving you all his worth. Every match you watch of that guy. He would have been fine in a world title match. You could have did anything with that. Even Austin Theory, as I don't think that would have been the best idea, but this company has given Jinder Mahal and Sheamus world title runs when they weren't ready, so maybe it wouldn't be that bad. You could have had Vince McMahon like manipulating like Vince's new pet project or something because you built that whole angle. And anyway, you could have had like so many different scenarios here where Austin Theory, could be like any kind of match. Master Theory is good enough you can almost put up in any match and it would be an interesting match. Now, would it have the star power of other matches? Probably not. But, and you have 6 weeks till Mania, so like he couldn't lose the title in between them. That's the other thing too. You could even have like tease something like that. Like, oh, well, Seth Rollins wins the next night of Raw, he loses to Kevin Owens or something, and then and then Seth has another match in Mania, and then Kevin faces somebody else, something like that. Just scenarios, you could run through here. And I could go on the SmackDown roster, but I'm not going to do that right now because we already had a Roman and Brock set, as stupid as it was, as dumb as it was, as ridiculously unoriginal as it is. But I want to talk about now the possibility that we're really facing here. Now, at WrestleMania, we could have one world champion, and that could mean one of two things. Either we get the Becky two belts thing, where it's probably going to be Roman, let's be honest, with both belts. And then at WrestleMania Backlash, he has two matches, which I could see being a thing. Because it could be them presenting, like, trying to sell more tickets. You could see Roman Reigns wrestle twice. That is not a horrible idea. Although with the way WWE books it, they'll probably have the Usos beat up one dude before the match. Then Roman just beats him like 10 seconds. And the second match will be the real match. Because they're pretty shit in 2022. At least with the men, most of the men's booking. But the women's booking has not been that bad, in my opinion. Other than the women's tag titles. Those are just, they don't know how to book those for shit. They never have. They never fucking have. To be honest, don't even get me started on NXT Women's Tags. They definitely know how to book those for fucking shit. But, anyway, that's one scenario. If that's a scenario, I still don't like it. It still pisses me off. It's still so stupid and so asinine and so ridiculous. But it's the better scenario of the two scenarios. And theoretically here, the only problem I have with that is Roman's probably going to hold the title for like another 8 years. Bruno Sammartino's title. And he's going to have both titles and it's a Venom pay-per-view and nobody's going to win the title. That's fucking stupid. Because then you have to create two star-making moments here. And WWE's usually too lazy to do even one. My thing in that is my worst case scenario there is that Roman holds it like till next year's Elimination Chamber and then he loses it in a rematch to Goldberg for one of his titles. And then he loses the next title to The Rock at WrestleMania. That's what I can see legitimately happening because his company is completely stupid as shit and still making more money than they ever have, so they don't give one single iota of a fuck. So they really don't care, you know what I'm saying? And I say that as a W fan, and Cody Rhodes, if you do show up, I hope you do have a good run, and I hope you make a lot of money, and I hope you get what you want to accomplish, but if you want to be the world champion, you might be in for one hell of an uphill battle. You might do it. Maybe you will. Maybe you'll win next year's Rumble. I don't know. But the other scenario, this is a more stupid scenario, this stupid fucking scenario, is that we get a post-WrestleMania where there's one world champion. And whether or not the brand split ends or not doesn't really matter, because one world champion is fucking stupid. It is a dumb idea in a company with like 100 and something people on two rosters. I don't know the exact number, maybe I'm exaggerating a little bit. But it's like quite 100. I know there's a lot. I think it's pretty goddamn close at least. And like all the people, every time Tony Khan signs one guy going, oh, AEW has too many wrestlers, are you going to have that same energy if there's one undisputed world champion and Raw and SmackDown? Are you going to be going, oh, WWE hires too many wrestlers? And this is after they release like 80 wrestlers. They still have a shit ton of wrestlers that they don't even know how to use, really. And like, let's say best case scenario, you have 40 wrestlers on each show. That's roughly about what you have. Let's say men and women. Not 40 women, obviously, but like combined, let's say 40. I think let's say Raw has 50 and SmackDown has 40. I think that's pretty accurate to what they actually have. That means you have roughly there about 30 guys on each show, and about one of those guys can get a shot at the world title on either both of those shows. Like, of 16 men, one guy's going to get a shot maybe once a month. If it's Brock Lesnar, maybe less. I don't know. He's wrestling now every freaking week, or wrestling every month now. I don't know what's going on with Brock Lesnar. But this is WrestleMania season. One of the worst WrestleMania seasons I ever remember. Actually, I think it is the worst. I don't remember. No, actually, the worst one was probably Brock and Roman Part 1. That was pretty shit. That was hot garbage. Although, that did lead to a great WrestleMania, so, maybe it works out in the end. I don't know. That's the funny part. I do remember a lot of Road to Ranias that have sucked a lot of ass. And then WrestleMania came up, and it was fucking mind-blowing. I don't know what is up with that. It seems like a reverse thing of WWE booking so bad that then they just kind of reverse it. Reverse it, and then they end up putting out a gangbuster pay-per-view. This is one they somehow find a way to do it. And they were like, the reverse of that too is like WrestleMania 32, which had a pretty bad build too. But WrestleMania 32 being a pretty bad WrestleMania, I wouldn't say horrible, but it's not really a great one. It's kind of good. Parts of it are very bad. Maybe it sucked. And then the next night on Raw is just being fantastic. Them taking their Raw after Mania like, I way better show than WrestleMania in half the time, Stuff like that. Like, But like, so look, let's look at this. If you have one world champion, I've already talked about Raw. Let's talk about SmackDown. Look at the guys who are not going to get a shot that haven't even gotten a shot much. Like Cesaro, a guy who, I forgot to mention, if AJ won the title, you could have made him an Edge for a world title. That would have been a fine world title match for Mania. I hope we still get AJ an Edge in some capacity. I hope we do. But we'll see. But like, okay, so SmackDown, you have Cesaro, right? You have Shinsuke Nakamura, who just lost the Intercontinental title. There's no reason you couldn't put him in a world title picture. Could have some great matches. Cesaro, who got a shot at last year's WrestleMania Backlash, and who I feel like, regardless of what happens at WrestleMania, should win the Universal title at WrestleMania Backlash this year. There's no reason he shouldn't. If you want to book smart, you want to talk about long-term storytelling, even though they haven't had any interaction between Cesaro and Roman in the last year, you could book that, and you could tell a story like that he fell off for a year or something, and Roman makes fun of him or something like that. I don't even know if there's usually a shake-up at their Mania too, so maybe some people will move. But like, you got them, you got Cesaro, Shinsuke, Drew fucking McIntyre, who WWE doesn't even know how to book anymore. It seems like they put him in these feuds that seem to go on forever, and they're the most droll, boring shit. Where it's a guy that he can just kind of squash pretty easily, but we have to drag it out as long as possible because we have all this TV time to fill. Jesus, Drew would have been great, and Drew will be great. If you give him a title shot, there's really no reason Drew should be dropped off like this from the world title picture that he was such an active part of. Yeah, I didn't want to see him get a million more title shots, but you could have took some time off, had him win the Rumble, and then Drew and Roman is a pretty good money match, in my opinion. Talk money matches, that's a pretty good match. They had a good match about last year's Survivor Series. Big E, a man that WWE seems to have forgotten was even world champion. Like, maybe we get Big E and Goldberg a minute. That's his dream, and I would be fine with that. Even though Goldberg doesn't have a contract anymore, there's ways to do that. You could have them just pay him for that match. That would be great. And then put Big E in the world title picture like it should be. Kofi Kingston, another guy who has not even got a one-on-one world title match at all since he lost his. He got a chamber last year, and he barely got that at the last minute because I think Miz, they like shot it. They did it because Miz didn't want Miz in the chamber. They wanted to cash in, you know. Any of these guys would be great, but if you have one world champion, what are the odds you're going to get a title shot? Maybe Drew. Drew would probably be the best option they have there. But probably more likely Seth. I love Seth, but that's probably what they would go with. Because he's a proven guy, and Drew they might not have as much about. But like, even if it's just, let's say like the rest of the year is just Drew and Seth Rollins fighting for a world title. And they're the only guys getting shots. That would be very boring, especially if it's just like off pay-per-view, one pay-per-view Drew or pay-per-view Seth. There's no reason that would be good. That would suck ass. And it creates a scenario where you have all these wrestlers you're bringing in, and probably bringing in more, and like, what is even the point of them? You know, you got JR back in the day saying that if you don't want to be the world champion, why are you in this business? Well, what is the point here if you can't even win the world title? Should they all just quit WWE because they can't get a shot maybe for like 5 years? It's just a ridiculous scenario, and I hope that's not where they're going. It's still stupid if they do the Roman 2 belts thing, and he defends, and twice in one night, and really. I'm not saying this is ever a good idea, but if you were going to do a unified champion, even for just a little bit, and then you were eventually going to just do a split again, make the title split up again, and make a new title or whatever, you should have done it during 2020, during the pandemic, because you were using the same arena. You couldn't bring every wrestler anyway, so it would have made more sense if you had, like, Drew McIntyre as a one champion, like he beats Braun Strowman in one pay-per-view, because Braun Strowman's reign was pretty damn bad. And really, after it ended, the only thing you had was Roman win the title anyway. And yeah, that probably would have screwed over Drew a little bit and Lashley eventually, but you could have maybe going back to that and brought a new title or something. Or you could have had Roman have both titles, and then eventually he defends both and he finds a way to lose one in the triple threat or some shit. I don't know. that's my big rant. I'm pretty done with it right now. I don't have much more to say. I just really didn't like this. I thought it was shit. It was garbage. It kind of ruined my mood, but you know, I'm used to it in a way. I am wary. I'm so wary of WWE doing the dumbest shit ever. And it honestly, it kind of makes me think if a WrestleMania, I might just tune out after like WWE. I mean, I don't even want to watch Raw today because it's so stupid. Like, there's rumors Cody might return. That's good, but like, why should I care? You guys don't give a shit about your rosters anyway. Why should I care if Cody returns so you can misuse him again? You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? Like, I hope they don't, but you know, at this point, is there like any chance they're not gonna? This company could fuck up a wet dream. And ironically, that was a quote from Mick Foley about WCW in the early '90s from his book. So funny how the worm has turned. Now here we are, And it's not like anything. There's really no reason to think they're going to drop ratings or anything, no matter what they do. And I mean, one last thing I'll say is that that's one of the things I really don't like about this. That the fact that you had this company, right? And they can book whatever they want. And you go, well, that's the thing people use. Well, they're still making money. They're making more money than ever. You're wrong. They know how to make money. No. They get money from deals, first of all, from their TV deals. But the point is, if they have that much money, that should mean they have the freedom to do any fucking thing they want, take the risk, and do anything. But instead of doing that, instead of taking a risk, like, imagine if you put, let's say you put Happy Corbin as the Universal Champion. You could do that. I don't like Happy Corbin, but you could, just to see what happens. And if the ratings start dropping, make him lose the title. Because isn't wrestling a whole business of seeing what works with the crowd, right? You're seeing what works. And if the ratings go down, the fans, the people stop buying tickets or whatever, just take the title off them. Simple scenario. It should be the easiest thing in the world to do, right? Especially because you have the money to back it up. But instead of doing any of that, they take the most stupid and simple route that anybody can do. They take the 2 stars they know for a fact they made. Beyond the shadow of a doubt. And the only reason they made Brock is because they don't have him around full time to make him lose all the time like they did with a lot of other wrestlers. Bray Wyatt. Although eventually he recovered from that, but yeah. But they take one of the stars they actually made, and the other star they made by basically doing the thing that fans were telling them to do for 5 years, and they finally listened after he himself told them to do it. And then they just kind of pushed him to the moon. And the stars they made at the expense of all their other talent, too. They do the safest route by taking the 2 big stars you made, that you undoubtedly have made as stars. One who's literally saying, why aren't there other stars? And you put them against each other for the 2 titles, because why bother coming up with 2 world title matches? That's too much work. We'll just make one. You know, we're making all this money. Who cares? Exactly. That's my point. It's so fucking lazy and lame. But anyway, that's all I gotta say. Thanks for watching. Hope you're having a great day.